Pursuant to MGL C30A Section 20B and Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021, permitting public bodies to conduct meetings remotely, the committee will meet virtually utilizing the Zoom platform. All votes will be taken by a roll call vote. So we'll do a call to order. Kathleen Burns.
Here.
Paul Kearney. Jennifer Lesky.
Present.
Greg McClellan.
Present.
Martin Nee. Nan Roth.
Here.
Paul Schubert. Douglas Schultz.
Here.
And I am here. All right. Well, we have Troy and Julie with AI3 to give us a little report here on their findings. So, Troy, Julie, turn it over to you. I asked the committee that you hold any comments and questions to the end, and then I will call you in roll call order so we can keep this very organized. So, Troy, take it away.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jason. So thank you all for having us here again tonight. The last time we spoke, I think it was February 15th at that meeting, and we provided an update as to the activities that were occurring on site in all of our consultants and the initial setup for the overall statement of interest and also the report that we've been developing over the last couple months. And so tonight, we as you've seen in the last several weeks, we've tried to provide the committee with updates regarding the report and the progress of the report. And as you could see, based on those documents, it's a fairly extensive series of material that we've developed. And so what we want to do tonight, obviously, is not go through excruciating detail, but give you a high level report as to what we found from two different fronts. One is the physical conditions assessment, and the second is the educational program assessment. And so Julie and I will go back and forth through the slides and give you a synopsis of the findings. And so if we look forward to the next month, the statement of interest closing period ends on April 29th at 11:59. And so the target is, and I know the district, Dr. Sullivan and Kathleen have, and others have began the process for putting together the SOI for the district and have a really good handle on the progress. And so that statement of interest would need the vote of the select board and also the school committee. And we would anticipate that in the month of April, and the dates that you can see on the slide, with either the joint facilities committee meeting with the select board as well as the school committee meeting, that those votes would occur to proceed with the submission of the statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And so as we work through the next several weeks, we'll be assisting the district in putting together and finalizing that document in any areas that are necessary for completion of the SOI. We'll also be pulling together capital repair improvement projects and outlining those. You'll notice in the draft report that those have been identified as placeholders for the next step, working simultaneous to the statement of interest, and that will identify for each of the three schools some of the capital improvement projects that should occur over the next 5 years, 10 years, related to each facility. And so the next slides we'll go through, as I mentioned, Julie will go through some of the physical conditions. We'll talk about the educational components and then wrap it up with some summary images related to the educational portion. So Julie, would you mind going through the next few slides?
Sure. So as Troy said, we've put together that initial draft, 214 pages that the committee saw. And tonight we're just going to run through some of our findings from the executive summary. And starting with the physical building characteristics for the middle high school, you might recall that we utilized that scoring system of 1 to 6 for our evaluations. So we're seeing here for the middle high school, as a result, scored a 2.8, which is the average of those evaluation categories. And one aspect that brought the score down was that the building doesn't meet ADA standards. So that's what we're seeing from one of these critical areas for the building. And of course, that would have been something that was not in place at the time that the building was constructed, but it's of course relevant today, just to ensure that the school would offer an exclusive environment for all. Another couple things that brought the score down is the healthy environment subcategory of the report. So looking at the architecture, and this was something that was scored at a critical level. There's really an inability to sort of properly control moisture in the building. And that's an aspect that's greatly related to maybe the lack of water tightness on the exterior, and high humidity inside, leaks, the smell of mildew. These are all a few things that Troy and I had observed when we were going through our evaluation, which is definitely signs of standing moisture that hasn't really found a way out of the building. And so jumping down just to look at the exterior, those were also at that sort of potentially critical level. And so the exterior wall system definitely going hand in hand with the effects that are felt on the interior. And we suspect, based on the original drawings and also what we observed, was that 50s and 60s construction portion probably doesn't include continuous insulation at the exterior or an air gap between the face brick, which is something that would be common for building construction today, which is a method, especially with masonry walls, to be able to weep any excess moisture out of the exterior wall system. And so as a result, we're getting that warm air on the inside that's sort of meeting the exterior wall system and the cold air. And then you're just generating so much condensation on the inside of the building that it's not really finding a way out. So those were kind of some of the really critical items that we observed. And those are definitely aspects of the building that are bringing this score down ultimately. And you'll note too that the mechanical portion also kind of scored in that critical range. And that's not necessarily surprising, considering that the air quality and the thermal conditions on the inside as a result of those exterior wall system failures is putting a lot of strain on the mechanical systems. And so they're ultimately also at that sort of end of service life stage. And then just pointing out a few of the other kind of lower scores, the mechanical, the plumbing, the electrical. A lot of that was just requiring updates to the energy code or general code that have been put in place again since the building was constructed. So these are some of the main things that are bringing the score of the building down. And ultimately we called the physical condition, we would say it was fair condition and would recommend replacement within 4 to 6 years. And then we were just pointing out some aspects of the exterior that we noted there. And as a bonus, this picture appears as if it's the front entry of the building, and we all know that that's the old entry. And so we also just wanted to compare that to something that might be built today. So including an adequate wall system with an air gap if it were to be masonry. It would include continuous insulation to meet the energy standards that are in place. And there'd be aspects that would help to control solar or other energy savings mechanisms like a light roof. And then this example happens to be Abington Middle High School. So there are two easily identifiable entrances that separate the middle school from the high school. So these would all be aspects that, despite the current operations and the ongoing maintenance of Cohasset Middle High School, there's definitely options that would streamline the school for sure. And then looking at Deer Hill in comparison, also scored a little bit lower, or I guess scored in the middle between the three of them with a 3.6, and 4 was really a common number in this evaluation. So nothing extremely critical other than the mechanical systems, but we know that that was something that was already in the purview of Cohasset with the last summer, the HVAC controls and rooftop units going out to bid. So that only critical items sort of already in the works to be repaired. And so what we're seeing is those number 4s would be a lot of recommended upgrades. So maybe to the interior finishes, like continuing the floor replacements, upgrades to the exterior pavement and trying to create accessible routes throughout the site. And then similar to the middle high school, this other lower score, the 2 for the electrical, would be the fact that some of the electrical in place doesn't necessarily meet current code and also energy standards. So Deer Hill, despite being built the same year as the Cohasset Middle High School, the exterior wall system seems to be operating a lot better. It might be a factor that the middle high school seemed to have a lot of these wings put onto it with differing roof heights. So that's also an area where moisture could be getting into those seams, unlike the Deer Hill, which was sort of a lot more organized, and it's it only had that singular addition along the back. And so ultimately we scored the Deer Hill as acceptable condition, which should be fine to continue in operation for the next 7 to 10 years, we'd suspect. And then similarly, some recommendations that aren't critical at this time, but if they sort of continue to just worsen, they might become critical issues. But just some considerations would be cleaning a lot of the water stains and any vegetation off of the building to avoid it seeping further into the wall system. The windows, for example, don't have any sill flashing, which might be something that would prevent standing moisture from existing on these precast pieces. Making sure that the weeps are clean so nothing's blocking moisture from coming out of the building. And then general maintenance with seals and caulking and mortar replacement would be some things that the facilities department would want to keep an eye on. And then last, for the Osgood School, the physical conditions of the interior were good in our professional opinion. The building was largely ADA compliant, and the interior environment was satisfactory for its occupants, as well as the finishes seemed to be fully together. Nothing was degrading. A few of the lower scores would be that the windows and the roof, which the town was already familiar with their condition, would be recommended to be replaced. And then a few of the other items being similar recommendations to the Deer Hill. And ultimately, the Joseph Osgood we believe to be in good condition, and there's no reason to believe it wouldn't be remain as such for the next decade. And then just a few of those things to point out on the exterior, the windows, the roof edges are starting to oxidize, and then cleaning off some of the rust or result of additional water stains. And in comparison to, this is Hingham Middle School, Julie just wanted to point out what the difference of sort of a clean fiber cement panel could make. And those are sort of easy enough where if the town saw fit, you could sort of replace these with a different material if you wanted, like an aluminum or a wood product, and then just kind of give it a new look or a new facelift, along with some new windows and replacing those asphalt shingle roofs with either maybe a standing seam roof or just another lighter colored roof for energy conservation. But ultimately, those were our 3 recaps for the physical building conditions. And I could pause there if we want questions, or I'm going to pass it to Troy, and he's going to give us an overview of the educational program.
Excellent. Thanks, Julie. What I would just say too, a couple of things on the physical condition assessment. One is that it was very apparent to us as we were walking through the 3 buildings, and as our consultants also agreed, that the facilities department has done a fantastic job maintaining and keeping up with the issues that that have occurred over the past many years. Whether it's the roofing program or repointing brick or interior finishes, painting, there have been many items that the district has taken care of immediately. And overall, as an initial walkthrough of the building, someone may think, wow, this is in fantastic condition. But as you peel away the layers of conditions and assess it for, looking at accessibility or looking at the building code requirements or energy efficiency, the exterior envelope, and the energy compliance, like all of those pieces reveal areas of the building that are non-compliant. And so with the physical assessment, it is a critical piece to take a look at a lot of the individual and get granular in the analysis. And that's one of the reasons why you can see that the report is 214 pages at this point. The second thing is those overall scores, obviously there's some subjectivity there. There's, whether it's 2.5, 2.3, 2.7, the big picture takeaway is looking at all 3 buildings comparative to each other and which one rises to the top as far as its inadequacies for physical conditions. And then we'll talk in a few minutes about the educational conditions. And you can see that the middle high school rises to the top as something that needs to be addressed overall as compared to all 3 buildings. And so from a physical condition that occurs, and then we'll talk about the fact that from an educational condition that also occurs. And so the last thing that I would just mention is with the physical condition and the evaluation and the numbers that we identified for a score, that's collecting dozens and dozens of individual items into a 6-point score. So, like I said, the actual average score is something that is somewhat subjective, but the critical view of all three of them together comparatively is the important takeaway here. So if we look at the, if Julie, if you want to go to the educational slide, with the educational program evaluation, when we design a building, we're looking at many educational design concepts, and there are over 40 design patterns that we look at, some of which are here, which we highlighted. And these components we look at, in this case, from a perspective of the existing conditions. Does the building, does the physical building support the current educational environment? And does it support the future vision, the future curriculum for the district? And you can see, just stepping back at a high level, the middle high school on the left-hand side, and with the matrix you see here, the design patterns, as you probably noted, are all on the left-hand side. So we've identified a handful of them to analyze and to highlight for you today. The first colored column is the middle high school, the second Deer Hill, and the third Joseph Osgood. And you can see with just looking at them for face value, there are a lot of critical items that the building does not support the possibilities for the educational environment at the middle high school versus Deer Hill and versus Joseph Osgood, which are in really good condition and also support the environment much better than the middle high school. So in this particular case, we look at the classroom sizes, the flexibility, the academic neighborhoods, the project-based learning labs, collaboration space and display and visual connections, socialization space, greeting and gatekeeping, indoor-outdoor spaces, and community resources, as well as lifelong health and fitness. And you can, and Julie, if you want to go to the next slide. So with the educational spaces and taking a look at just from a square footage, as compared to the Massachusetts School Building Authority's educational space summary, what a new building would be designed as from a space standpoint, how does that compare to the current building, your current building? And there are some really significant deficiencies related to that. So we've got undersized general classrooms. So a lot of the general classrooms, particularly in the middle school and also, particularly in the high school and also in the middle school, some are at 675, 650 square feet, where the Massachusetts School Building Authority range is 850 square feet to 950 square feet for a general classroom. And so that is part of the challenge that you have in the building itself not being not supporting the right environment for the size of space. It's just typical general classroom. The auditorium is undersized. The performance space is undersized. The dining room and food service is significantly undersized. The administration and guidance is undersized, but not significantly at all. One of the areas that is significantly undersized and lacks the space is vocations and technology. Any of the specialized programs, any future programs that relate to innovation spaces, or whether it's marine biology or marine related spaces. We talked a lot with the administration about potential spaces in the future, and just from a face value standpoint, with comparison to the MSBA standards and the existing building, that is significantly undersized. The other areas that are of concern are student project innovation labs or collaboration space, the teacher collaboration and planning space. small group learning space is also a challenge. The support of special education spaces and conference and meeting spaces, and then finally indoor and outdoor connections we'll talk about, which is outdoor educational space. There's a courtyard in the center of two courtyards in the center of the building, and those could be utilized better, but also the site itself around the perimeter, although a tight site, could be utilized for educational space around the perimeter, and also capitalizing on the topography of the site as well. Julie, you want to go to the next slide there? So as I mentioned with the classroom sizes, flexibility here is one of your classrooms, and the insufficient storage, the lack of space, no connection to the exterior, which doesn't necessarily need to occur in a general classroom, but it's something that can exist. And then the organization of the middle school as an example, neighborhoods, or having space that are in clusters, neighborhoods, however you want to describe them, that with the current building, it really makes it challenging to have middle school environment in a classroom that was built in the 60s and 70s with double loaded corridors and lockers lining the entire space. You see in the next slide, this is the Kennedy Middle School that that was just completed, that we designed. And this is a general classroom. This has, you can see, 3 teams, and there's one to the left, not in the screen. There are 3 what they call huddle zones, where it allows for collaboration, flexible space for multi-use, multimedia, as well as small group lessons. And it completely allows for the flexibility and integration of technology within space. And you can see also a really nice, significant use of natural daylight coming into the space. Corridors, academic neighborhoods, as we talked about, the inability to organize classes in neighborhoods or teams, signage and wayfinding, and also interactive spaces within the and collaboration spaces within the academic neighborhoods. The next space you can see, this is also Kennedy Middle School, where completely different environment, allows for the interaction of the upper right is the aquaponics, hydroponics space. On the lower right-hand side, a small group and breakout area commons zone within the academic wing for a class to come out or small groups to come out. The next slide shows your project-based learning lab. It is a modified classroom, and we had a really good discussion with the instructor there about the space and possibilities of utilizing a space in the future and some of the deficiencies in that space. And so the next slide you can see is the Beverly Middle School Maker Builder Innovation Lab. And they've got 12 of these within the middle school, 1 in each academic neighborhood. And so this provides such an amazing flexibility of space. It opens up to the corridor. It allows for the complete integration of the science, technology, engineering. The art classroom is just adjacent to this and promotes hands-on learning, collaboration, discovery, and obviously independent investigation as well. The next slide is the wood shop at the middle high school, and you can see that the square footage of the space as part of that vocation technology is much smaller than even the MSBA standards at this point. And so a modern lab, which is the next slide, you can see that's actually Marshfield High School, and it's the boat building shop that was designed a few years ago in a completely different environment, but just an example of some of the possible innovation labs and also specific spaces that as a district you can incorporate into your educational program with a new school or a major renovation of the existing school to promote some of the specific programs that you would want to provide to the students. Collaboration space, we talked about part of that in this case. We noticed as we were walking through the building, a lot of times students were out in the corridor sitting on the floor adjacent to the lockers. And then the next slide, this is Beverly Middle School. And in a lot of the new schools we're designing, each pair of two classrooms has a small group space, pull-out space, connected directly to each of those classrooms. So for every two classrooms, there's a small group space, and that is strategically located, or that combination is strategically located within the teams at the middle school or in the configuration at the high school that supports the educational environment. And so they're easy access, there's transparency, there's the ability to have small groups pull out into those spaces, and the instructors really and students really enjoy that flexibility and that opportunity within in this case is Beverly Middle School. Display and visual connections, as we talked about with the double-lined corridor and the metal lockers of the past, that really makes it challenging for connection between educational spaces and the corridors in the multi-use and flexibility of spaces. And you'll see in the next slide, this is Beverly Middle School in the common area for each team, where you can see the multi-use, a small group pull out there as well, and also connection to the classrooms, and natural daylighting and wayfinding is significant to provide a lot of really nice natural light into the space. Indoor-outdoor connections. This is your high school corridor, and then the middle high school in Abington. The connection between this is the core section of the building connecting the common spaces to the academic wing. Socialization space with the student commons here. Student commons at the middle high school is significantly undersized based on the Massachusetts School Building Authority square footage. And you have started a really good program with the senior cafe, which is on the second floor of the athletic area adjacent to this. But it definitely is certainly not something that is supporting what the common area that is in a modern middle high school. And you can see this is a middle school, actually Somerset Middle School, with an educational stair, a lot of really nice natural daylight. It's open to the existing, or open to the academic wing, and open to the exterior with the indoor-outdoor connections as well. And then community resource, obviously the auditorium is a huge component of being a community resource. There are many things that in a facility that was designed over 70 years ago, upgrades have occurred, but it's still, as far as its physical size and its amenities, is lacking from a modern middle high school. And you can see this is an example of Plymouth as South High School, and the possibilities there, not only with the space, the acoustics, the lighting, sound system, and the opportunities there, which are modern design facility. And so with all of the educational piece, the physical elements and deficiencies that we talked about, we absolutely would recommend that the middle high school be considered for a comprehensive renovation, addition, or new construction through the MSBA program in the statement of interest to submit to the MSBA. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Jason. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that presentation. I've gotten through most of the 214 pages, not quite all of it yet, but I'm getting there. I'm taking chunks at a time.
There you go. There you go.
But I'm going to turn it over to you guys can stop sharing so we can see everybody's wonderful faces bigger. To the committee here. So Kathleen, I'm going to start with you if you have any questions.
Yeah, first, thank you for this presentation and for all this work. This is amazing. So much information here. Like Jason, I'm trying to get through it all, but the presentation was super helpful to synthesize it. And all of this information is just awesome and in such a digestible format. So thank you. I have a couple questions. First, I think some of the most concerning ones are like the ventilation, humidity, mold, health related ones. Do you guys have a sense of what the cause of that is? Like, is it just the roof? Is it lots of little things? What's the root cause of that?
Yeah, so you have a building that's initially was constructed 70 years ago. So the initial building, it's not constructed with the same layer of exterior material and exterior envelope that we would today, and it was renovated 20 plus years ago, but the structure has its deficiencies with water infiltration. Like today, we would control water differently than it was 70 years ago, and even taking a renovation project that was done 20 years ago, it's really, really challenging to take an exterior wall and update it without essentially taking the entire brick surface off and treating the backup wall, the backup part of the wall, what you see on the interior, and creating that barrier. So inevitably what happens with buildings of this age is there's water infiltration. There's water going through these sandwich of materials in the exterior. The sealants, over 20 years with the renovation, the sealants break down. So there are, whether it's the window perimeter, the flashings from the roof to the wall surface, like those eventually break down. And it's something that is constantly needed to repair, but it's really difficult within a building of that age to get to be on top of it. And naturally, the exterior breaks down. So what happens is, water infiltration, water gets into the building, whether it's through the roof or the walls. And if it's there for a period of time, it becomes stagnant. And let's say, for example, you've got a penetration through the roof membrane. Water gets into the insulation, water gets to the deck, and the material absorbs the water that's infiltrated the building. And so it's really challenging to get and to remove that water on a regular basis. So one after another, water in the building will eventually cause interior conditions that are not ideal. Now, I will say that none of what we're saying is that the building is a quote unquote sick building, or that it is unhealthy for the occupants. Definitely don't take that away as, get your kid out now because it's unhealthy. That is not what we're saying. But inevitably with buildings of this age, there's going to be areas of moisture concern that need to be addressed, and situations that, whether it's a mechanical system as an example, the combination of the mechanical systems, operating at the end of their service life, as well as the conditions on the interior and them being, unit ventilators in the classrooms as an example, it certainly taxes those systems more than a new system that has proper air changes, proper ventilation. And so that's a long answer to your question, Kathleen. I'm sorry, but
No, it's helpful because no, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
It's a better, I have a better understanding now. I'll let other people go. I don't have a ton of specific questions. I think this was really compelling and interesting. So I'll defer to the next person to ask more questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kathleen. Hey, Paul, do you have any questions for AI3?
No, I just want to say that, Troy, this was a great presentation, very professional, and I really appreciate outlining exactly what we've been talking about for a couple of years now. And it's good to see that it's actually coming to reality. So I'm excited for that. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I'll add my thanks and also pick up on Kathleen's word compelling. I also found this presentation to be very compelling. And intuitively, I thought to myself, well, gosh, yes, this all makes a lot of sense to me. But I was wondering if there are any sort of easy to share out data or resources, studies that sort of give the rationale behind why project-based learning is so important, why having socialization spaces in schools is so important, to sort of give some bite to some of these things that sort of on the outset seem very intuitively like the right thing to do for kids in schools. But for anyone who is skeptical of that, how you can put some numbers or some research behind it.
Yeah, there's definitely some research behind all of those concepts and the educators would know a lot more detail than we would. They have over the last 20 plus years, they have educated us a lot in some of the forward thinking educational environments and techniques and opportunities. So I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that I'm an expert in education for sure. We have several of them on the call now, but there's definitely some data and some studies that exist out there relative to all those topics and the design patterns and the background or the backbone to each of those design patterns, and some really, really talented and incredible educators that produce those.
Certainly, from my part, Jen, I'd be happy to help with any research. I mean, there's the Buck Institute that does a lot of work on project-based learning, for instance. There's a myriad of research about the effect of it and the necessity of it. I mean, Gates Middle School really seized onto that in the design of their school in Situate, their middle school, where I could certainly avail anybody to that research, and anything you that I can do to help this amazing process, please call on me to do so.
Thank you. Yeah, I've certainly personally drunk the Kool-Aid, but I feel like when you're in conversations with people, it's oftentimes nice to have some solid research backing up your opinions. And then just really quickly, I'm just sort of out of curiosity, have districts in your experience while going through this process, seen the need for creating a plan for maintenance and repairing of systems that I found it reading through your documentation. I was like, wow, there's a lot of repair to do all at once rather than sort of, oh, well, we know that Osgood's due in this year, and 5 years later, Deer Hill needs a new heating system. And then 5 years later, we do a middle high school
Yeah.
system, so that the town doesn't get caught in this sort of glut of repairs that seem to be coming all at once. And I'm just wondering if you have advice on how other districts sort of manage that, because we seem to be at a nice point to consider that as well in terms of planning.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good question, because one of the things, well, there are a couple of things. We have seen a variety of maintenance plans that districts have had over the years. And one thing that I will say, that if you are accepted into the core program with the MSBA, part of the process, the MSBA requires the district to establish, one, provide their current plan, but two, establish a maintenance plan, a long-term maintenance plan for how you will maintain either a comprehensive renovated building or new construction, a new building. And so they want to make sure that your investment, their investment is going to be maintained and is going to have the longevity that's intended when it's constructed. And so that doesn't necessarily connect to Osgood or Deer Hill, but what can be used is to sort of extrapolate that process with those other two buildings, and then come up with a district-wide plan for maintenance and repair for long-term.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are a lot of examples out there for maintenance plans, that long-term maintenance plans that have been produced. Sure.
All right, Craig.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you, Troy and Julie, for that. I know a lot of work went into that. So thank you so much. I feel like there's no huge surprises for me, at least, in this. What is of particular interest is the educational facet of the evaluation, and I think sort of relating to what Jen said a little bit, in that, it's clear that our facility just is not offering a modern learning experience for the kids. And that's because we don't have a lot of collaboration spaces that are conducive to that project-based learning. And I know for a fact that we'll have, and I know that Pat, who I'll just note is probably going on his 12th or 13th hours. He's still sitting in his office over there for us all. But I know that Pat will, and especially Leslie Scollins will have absolutely have the ability and interest in gathering that data for us, Jen. I can see it just in school committee presentations, like from the kids, that the teachers, obviously our staff is wonderful and they're doing the best they can with what they have, and so we're still offering our students a solid learning solution. But obviously, with revitalized facilities or modern facilities, that will just launch us over the top. And you can see when the teachers are using that collaboration and project-based approach, the kids are so much more engaged. But it's also like, it's engaging to watch their presentation, so you can imagine what it's like to learn in that way, right? So it's so interesting to see that very, very low score. And it's not, that score obviously doesn't reflect the like low level of education that we're currently offering our students.
Right.
What it reflects is the sort of failure to meet today's sort of learning environments, the sort of standard that's set for today's learning environments. And that is exactly what we need to bring to the table here in order to launch Cohasset into the premier school district that it should be. And I know the current school committee just demands that. We're just demanding better for the kids, and it's just time. So I think this presentation is just, it's objectively compelling. I think it expresses objective urgency for the middle high school, which I think is what this community should be feeling in looking at that building that is trapped in the 1980s, maybe early 1980s. And, we need to deliver a better product to our kids. So I felt so vindicated watching that. So, thank you so much for putting that together and all of the time and effort that went into it. And I know that it'll be a valuable tool in expressing the need for attention to our buildings as we present this to the community. Thank you so much.
I would just add too that those design patterns that we presented are a handful from an exhaustive list, and Troy and I include some of them, but they aren't just trends that we try to include in every new school. Those were just an example of the group of design patterns that's resonated the most after conversations with Cohasset administration. And so those were plucked and presented as a result of, specific to your school district and what your administration was seeing was lacking and what the school district could benefit from.
Nan?
Yeah, again, thank you for this really interesting presentation. And I have tried to wade through most of the report. I find it pretty devastating in terms of the middle school, high school. And I am wondering what you think about the future of that building. Is there hope for that building, or does it really need to come down and start all over again? What do you think, in your opinion?
Well, that's a loaded question, I think.
It is a loaded question, but it's the important conclusion of what you've presented. And, there's so many things that you've labeled wrong between the bricks and the interior. Right. And I don't see how any of that can be fixed without taking it down. What do you think?
So here's when the project, the statement of interest is submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. They accept you into the core program. They will require that the district review, evaluate many different options. And that includes a renovation addition, and new construction. That has to happen. And so I guess, it would be easy for me to say, with all of the things that we talked about, with the fact that, the original building, it built in the 1950s, the addition in the 1966, the renovation in 2000, in the early 2000s, like these series of appendages that are creating, in part, the current challenges that you have from a building educational standpoint and also a physical standpoint. It would be easy for me to say, yes, you got to take this building down and build a new building. Do I feel that? After 25 years of doing this, that's probably the direction in which you will be heading. But I certainly would not, we would not go in saying that, yes, it is absolutely a new building. We have to go through the process and study the opportunities and the possibilities.
I understand all that.
Yeah.
It's just that you have labeled so many problems with the physical plant, particularly moisture in the walls and the lack of space you talked about between the exterior bricks and the interior walls. Is that possible to be fixed or not?
It's certainly possible. What you will likely find, and what we find a lot, is modifying an existing building exterior envelope like that. Sometimes, in many cases, costs more than
Yeah.
to
Part of
replace.
the whole, yeah.
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 And the other piece that I think is important, in addition to the physical components, is the fact that the core classrooms are significantly undersized. So when a classroom in the high school, as an example, in the original 1950 building is 670 square feet, but the recommended MSBA recommended square footage is 850 to 950. You repeat that over a series of a classroom wing, and is almost nearly impossible to really, it's a domino effect, right, of moving walls and trying to get the
Fewer
adjacencies to work, the square footages to work, everything to work within the confines of the existing footprint. So there are many challenges, and a new building certainly would allow you to resolve every single one of the physical and educational challenges you certainly have now. And that being said, I will end by just saying that the MSBA requires that analysis to come to that conclusion, which is a much longer period of evaluation and analysis through the process.
Is that something your firm would do, or is it something that we have to get somebody else to do?
Well, we would love to do it. It's a it is certainly, we have designed over 75 buildings in the past 20 plus years, and educational facilities K through 12 in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So that's what we do. That's all we do. And so whether it's the research or the design evaluation, that's what we do. And so it is certainly something we would love to work with you and move forward and produce the best middle high school possible in the Commonwealth. But there's a process to get to that point, which involves first the statement of interest, then acceptance into the program, and then it would be, once you go through the first stage, the first module, the eligibility period, then the second step is to select your OPM, owner's project manager, and your designer. And so that's when we would re-enter the process. And then you go through the feasibility study and schematic design. And a project after that process is identified as a very specific size, a very specific process, or a specific project at that point.
Anything else, Nan?
No, I think that's a bit of an evasive answer, but it's one that I understand.
I don't mean to be. I certainly don't mean to be at all.
It's fun. And thank you very much.
All right, Doug?
Thank you. I won't ask any questions. I just give my sincere appreciation for the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions either, except just make yourselves readily available, because there's a lot of committee meetings coming up that probably need you to help back us up on.
No problem.
Being soon enough on the 30th with the school committee, because we definitely want to get this in front of them and get their blessing on everything that we're doing. And then we'll follow up with the select board after that. We have a couple meetings in March, so we can have
anything we can do to help you guys.
Yeah, I have a standing every week unless I say. Carrie's kept me on there, so we'll be good. So thank you guys for everything. And if we have any other questions, we'll reach out to you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay. The next topic is, we can discuss the report further and next steps, but I think we're pretty aware what the next steps are. We need to get this in front of the school committee and the select board. Kathleen's got a lot of writing and typing to do on that SOI. Kathleen, do you want to just give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, so I've met with Nan, talked with Craig, talked with Dr. Sullivan, talked with Troy. We've got a Google Doc going that we are working on together as a team. And, we're hoping to make a lot of progress on it. I mean, I think it's in decent shape. I think we're hoping to make a lot of progress on it over the course of the next week or so. And that's that, really.
Kathleen, you're doing a fabulous job with it. It looks great. I haven't really added anything to it. It's excellent.
Yeah, I think Troy's been a giant. Troy's really doing a lot of work too.
It looks really good.
But yeah, we'll get there. And I think, while I have my mute button off, can I just ask one other thing that I think we should talk about today is how to sort of share this report with the community, right? I think obviously it's a lot. I think it's super compelling. I think it's, critical that we share it. I also think maybe we could ask Troy how to do that, if we could have like a condensed version of it that hits some of the highlights, so we can give kind of like a shorter one. I don't know, Jason, you're going to be presenting, but I think we should really share this widely if we're looking to communicate with the community about what we're working on and what's happening here. I think, we hired a consultant, they did tons of work. We've got to share it. And I think the whole report is awesome, but maybe a shorter one too.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
I'm going to look through the report a little more closely before I suggest that we post it on our website. I want to make sure there's nothing in there that, because I did forget to ask them. I didn't see anything about security in there, which was good. So I hope they took care of all that with the resource officer, and that's a separate document somewhere that nobody can see. I just want to make sure that there isn't some stray document in the 214 pages that mentions anything about that, because we don't need that going public. I post all of our meetings after they're recorded. I request to post to our page, our Cohasset page. I have the previous presentation that they presented to us up there. I will have this one that they just did post it on there as well. But I do think that a shorter than 214 page report, which will be longer once they start putting all the financial pages in there for the community to digest. But I also want them to have all 214 pages if they so choose to read it. So I don't want to complicate that. So I don't know if anybody else has any opinions on what we should have put out first.
Maybe
I'm leaning more towards putting it all out there, and then if we do presentations to the community to narrow it down, I just think that the more information out there, the better. Nan?
maybe they can write a 2-page executive summary. That,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That would encompass the major points.
Mhm.
And it's their information, so they should be able to do that.
Yeah.
I also have a weekly newsletter that is, people look at anyway. And if I put it as the first sort of article in there, which I did with a letter, I think it gets a lot of hits. So, please just anything you want out there in people's site, let me know and I'll put it there.
And what about the Anchor or the Patriot Ledger? Do you think it makes sense to share that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, because they definitely, I know they watched the select board meeting.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to do
that
that? What
Excuse-
was that, Ann? Ann, sorry.
What's the Anchor?
Oh, it's like an Instagram newsletter thing.
It's a new paper. So
It's a new
It's like
paper.
a-
It's like the
like
Patriot Ledger, but
Cohasset
more
local
focused on Cohasset.
news thing.
Okay, I'm not up to date on the Anchor, sorry.
So,
new, very new.
Yeah. So do you want me to take the lead on that? I'm happy to do that.
sure, yeah, if you want to get with Troy and ask him for, or you know what, I'll get with Troy, I'll ask him for the summary, and then I'll send it to you, Kathleen.
Okay.
And then we can send it out to all parties.
Okay, and then Jason, you want to let us know when everything's up on the website, and then we can share that link in.
Everything as of today is up there.
Oh, okay, all the materials also. Okay.
Yeah, not the 214 pages yet, but that
Right, after, yeah, so after you take a look at that, you want to let us know when that will be up, and then we can share that link also.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Megan
Anything else?
has been great with posting all our meetings are up there. You click on a link, it takes you right to the town YouTube page. Every meeting we've had is right there. So
Great. Okay, so I'll share it with those sources that we just discussed. If anybody else has any other ideas for how to share it and communicate this more widely to the community, just let me know.
I think it
should
has
we-
the 143 Facebook page.
Yeah, I mean, the question for that is, what do we link to? The full presentation once it's up,
Yeah.
the summary?
yeah, I would link we could link the summary, which would go on our page, and then below the summary, we'll just have the full report.
Well, okay,
They can,
we'll aim to get that up there like early next week, if we can get the executive summary later this week, hopefully.
yep.
And you could also link, I think Jason's mastered this, you could also link to a video of the presentation we just watched. That's really helpful. I mean, I think people might want to look at that. I mean, that was compelling. So that would be useful. People say, hey, here's a video of a 45-minute presentation or whatever on the existing conditions of the school. That would be helpful, I think. That'd probably be the thing people would want the most.
So logistically, Jason, will you?
Yeah, I've been in touch with Megan. She's the one that's been uploading everything for us. So I will get it as soon as we're done here to get it one posted as soon as possible. And I'll also link the actual physical PDF presentation that they just went through too. So at least those two will be up there while we do this other stuff in the background.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else?
Definitely, I'll help you with whatever you need. You know how to reach me, so I'll help.
Great, thanks.
Craig, for the school committee meeting, I know you regularly give them the update. I have freed my calendar, so I am available to show up. You can see my lovely face.
Great.
What would you like me to present? Do you want me to drag AI3 in to do this presentation again?
Yep.
Perfect. I will get them.
So I'll be able to give this presentation by the time this is all over with. So,
well, good. I think we're all going to have to.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, no, I'm just being sarcastic, but yes, absolutely. You and Troy and Julie should be there. I mean, I think you should come in person. It's a hybrid.
Yep, I'll be there.
And this is going to be a big step. I mean, it'll start to I think make this materialize in people's minds once it's in front of the school committee. And yeah, I'm excited about it.
Are you gonna, at this meeting, Craig, are we gonna ask your committee for blessing to submit the SOI?
That's going to be, I think, after
Okay, I just want to make sure
we refine that a little bit.
It's not done yet. No.
So that's going to be at April 12th, I think it is. Jason? I think Pat, that's a meeting, right?
April 13th.
Sorry, I knew I was going to mess
You're
it
clear, you were right on. It's right in front of me. I'm right here, so I can see it.
Yeah, so April 13th, we're going to ask for approval for a vote on the SOI, but this is going to be just a presentation, so that basically another way to express the same material. I'll actually I'll advertise it using the road sign that we usually use for it's like that like road sign downtown, like right below the Episcopal church there. We usually for any sort of topics of interest, we usually put something there, mask removal topics, like the school calendar, things like that. So I'll advertise it that way too, but we can get a little bit of more viewership that way.
And for the school community, I can send out a separate Connect Ed message that, isolates it and advertises it in that way away from the rest of the agenda.
Right. Yeah.
It's worth it.
It'd be great.
Okay. I did not receive any other topics. Have we, I don't remember or recall, I can't find any notes. Have we planned out our next couple months of meetings? Does anybody remember?
I don't think so.
No.
Perfect. Let's do that now. All right. So the last Tuesday in April is the 26th. Is that school vacation or is that the week before?
the week after school vacation is the 26th, so that we're good.
And May 31st is the last Tuesday.
That's
in May.
Memorial.
Yeah,
Wait,
so 24th.
No.
Last Tuesday in June is June 28th.
Sorry, so are we doing May 24th or May 31st? May 24th.
May 24th. Yep.
Thank you.
We all have vacations.
All at 7 p.m.
Yes.
Are these all going to be virtual?
I'm thinking we could probably start, if everyone feels like it, we'd start doing these in person. Unless anyone has any hesitations. I mean, I'll even do a hybrid. Some of us will be there and we can still Zoom. It doesn't really matter to me.
You could certainly use either the community room or our Learning Commons, which is sort of a better space. You'll see the Learning Commons, Jason, when you're in presenting on next Wednesday. So just know you're welcome to that, and I can help arrange that for you.
I'd say that the hybrid is easier said than done so long as we're early on here. Once we're getting a little bit more traction and people want to see, what we're talking about more, just doing it with the school committee, it's an exercise.
Yeah.
So, and it's worth it, but maybe I think if we're just meeting for now, I mean, you can see there's no attendees here yet. I mean, there will be. I mean, we'll become a popular group, I'm sure, in the near future. But yeah, so if we want to do it in person, we can definitely, Pat, Dr. Sullivan, you're good with us using the school, right? Guess it would make sense.
Yes.
A school facility, have a meeting.
Use any space.
Well, we're lucky. We have both. We have the backing of the town. Chris Seniors, we can use all his stuff, and we got Dr. Sullivan. So we got the best of both worlds. We got,
And what was the June date? Did we?
June 28th. Is 3 enough for now?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Do you want to do in person on the 26th?
I'm fine with that.
Is everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. He's in person.
Do we
Beautiful.
want to do it in the community room in the school, or do we want to do it in the Learning Commons? Those are the two sort of general areas.
Learning Commons is a much nicer space.
Yeah, let's do the Learning Commons. Let's.
Right.
I'll get that reserved for you at 7 o'clock.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, that's it at the high school?
Yes, it's Doug, the auditorium entrance. It's the entrance beside the auditorium entrance, not the actual entrance you use for the. No, I guess it is the actual entrance you use for the auditorium.
Yes, you just go straight and it's your first major room on your right.
So basically, Doug, imagine the
That's the middle school side?
Yeah, middle school side, so the main driveway, and imagine the middle school entrance, and then the next major door down to the right towards the high school entrance is the door
Okay.
you'd be using.
Thank you.
Yes, literally the auditorium entrance.
Yep.
Okay. So I got that out of the way. The next topic is approval of the minutes from 2/15/22. Has everyone reviewed them?
Yes.
Any comments, changes needed?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Kathleen Burns,
Aye.
Paul Kearney,
Aye.
Jennifer Leskey,
Aye.
Craig McClellan,
I'll abstain. I wasn't there for the whole meeting.
Nan Roth,
Aye.
Doug Schultz,
Aye.
Jason Earls, aye. We may post our minutes, Nan. Thank you very much for doing that.
Okay.
And that is all I have. So
Motion to adjourn.
do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Kathleen,
Aye.
Paul Kearney,
Aye.
Jennifer Leskey,
Aye.
Craig McClellan,
Aye.
Nan Roth,
Aye.
Doug Schultz.
Aye.
Jason Earls, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice night.
Thanks, everyone.
You
Thanks
too.
for your great work. So appreciated. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.